Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from our sponsor. The Daily Compliance News for July 22, 2022, the Serious Farce edition. And we begin with that story from the Law Society Gazette, first-time contributor to the Daily Compliance News, which reported on a investigation against around the UK Serious Fraud Office and their actions in their mishandling of the cases against individuals who previously had been associated with Unaoil. The report skewered the SFO for allowing a third party who allegedly represented the Asantes, the owners of Unaoil, to try and persuade the defendants to disregard their rights under English law to plead guilty. This was due to Lisa Ozovsky allowing this to happen. Lisa Ozovsky, of course, is currently the head of the SFO, but she's also an American who's a former Department of Justice official who really should have known better but didn't. So just a withering report on the conduct of the SFO, and you see now that the United Kingdom should never have an American running the SFO. Next up, from the Wall Street Journal, the Chinese government has required HSBC to put a Chinese Communist Party official in at the company's Chinese security subsidiary, and they formed a unit that represents the Communist Party. 3 workers formed a party branch at HSBC Quinine Securities, and it's at least clear to me that this is the start of the Chinese Communist Party's takeover of HSBC, although I'm sure HSBC would say this is no big deal. But it's all part of the takeover. It started with the takeover of Hong Kong and has continued through this. So the Chinese Communist Party will be running foreign businesses that occur in China and do business in China. What HSBC does is, at this point, they have just folded at every instance. Next up, Credit Suisse back in the news. More corruption from that bank as they pay certain bondholders who were defrauded in the Tuna Bond case. So Credit Suisse with more. And our final story is the trial of the Twitter employee who was caught spying for the Saudis has begun. Typically, you don't think of corporate employees charged as spying, especially ones from Twitter, but we have one here. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.